I want to share with you how I actually went from being a social worker in the local government, specifically the New York City Department of Education, to being a social worker in tech, or a tech social worker, as I like to call it. Now, I'm actually going to remove my face from the screen so I'm not looking at myself the whole time. Let me just do that. Okay, cool. So how did I become a tech social worker? So I think I just finished reading a book and she mentioned it's called actually Drop the Ball. And I think if you are looking to just be a better manager and navigate your career better, you should check it out. It also talks about being a mother and how to just quote unquote navigate a balanced life, right? Whatever that means. And she talks about what that means for her and how she navigated it all. Outside of that tangent, back to how I went from being a school social worker, being a government social worker, to being a tech social worker. The reason why I brought up that book is because she kept saying how every time she was going to make a decision, she spoke with kind of like her kitchen cabinet, right? Which is people who she really, really trusted and they kind of always guided her. And she wouldn't make a decision without asking them about their opinion. Now, I don't know if it's because of the way I grew up, but I rarely ask for opinions from like my like family or inner circle before I do anything. I usually look to whoever has done the thing that I want to do. So, for example, when I was looking for a new job, I did not tell anyone I was working with, and I'm pretty to this day, I haven't been at that job for like 5, 6 years now, and I'm still very close to a number of the people there. But like, I didn't tell anyone I wanted to pivot into tech, right? And this is like very little, but hopefully this is a good example of kind of why. So before I had these locks, I had other locks. They were a bit bigger and they were much longer. I'd had them for quite some time. And I have always believed that your hair is kind of tells a narrative and it holds certain stuff. And my goal was that I got my locks when I got into grad school. And I was like, well, when I finish paying off my debt, I would cut off my locks because I feel like for me, that kind of like closed out that chapter of my life of like undergrad and grad school and everything. So when I finished paying off my debt, I was like, I'm going to cut off my locks. And I told my coworkers this, and everyone was like, "Oh my God, why would you do that?" Like, it was just so many reasons why I shouldn't do it. Mind you, I cut my hair before, like, it's really not a big deal. But I say that to say, like, people in that space, especially, could only imagine where they were at and what they knew in that present moment. And I've always been somebody who's just like, if I see someone else can do something, I'm more likely to lean into that and learn from them rather than say like, well, I only know this, so therefore I need to stay here. So when I was thinking about pivoting to tech, I just was like, okay, where do I go from here? This is probably why, if you watch the past two videos over the last 2 days, you've seen me talk a lot about LinkedIn. This is why I love LinkedIn. So the first thing I did was I went on LinkedIn and I was just kind of like, what next? And I have been always updated my LinkedIn. So my LinkedIn was pretty current. So what LinkedIn does is that if your profile is current, or at least is like filled, it'll give you options for different jobs. You'd be like, oh, you're a good fit for this job. You're a good fit for that job. And when it did that, I would actually look to see what it thought I was a good fit for. And I kept seeing various things in government, but also I kept seeing roles in tech. So I started looking at those more and trying to figure out, okay, what is here for me, right? And once I finally kind of wrapped my head around that, hey, my skill sets as a social worker, as an educator could be really great in tech, I started looking around to see who had done the transition. And in high school, I had gone to a summer program at Ithaca College, and one of the program managers, like he must, if I was in high school, he must have been in college, right? Um, he was like the summer resident assistant or program manager, something to that extent. His name was Cornell. And I'd followed him all throughout the year. So I reached out to him because I'd noticed, and let me just even check real quick on LinkedIn. Um, I reached out to him because I noticed that he had gone from higher ed to tech. I'm just on his profile right now. Let me just confirm because I don't remember. So this must have been in 20. Okay, so yeah, he went from higher education. He was the diversity and inclusion program lead. And then he went and was the diversity, equity, and inclusion lead at a tech company, eventually working at Google and a ton of other really amazing companies that I stan. So at this point, he had just made that one move, but I was like, well, he made the move. I know higher ed really well. I know nonprofits really well. I obviously know social work really well. And if he found a way to take the things that I know, and therefore he knows, and he went into tech, I can do the same thing. So I reached out to him and I was like, what did you do, etc. Now, I'm not even going to hold you. I don't remember what he told me. But I think the most important thing was that whatever he said was like, you can do it too. So that was like my probably one of my first conversations. And then I took that and then I started looking for other people. And other people at this point, I didn't know them. I would just look at their titles and I would say, hey, this is what I think I can do. Right. I've been working as a program coordinator. I've been working in the diversity and inclusion space. I've been training. I've been facilitating. I've been working with partners. This is all I can do, what job is available to me in tech. So I would find different job titles, different skill sets, and I would just send them a message and say, hey, can we talk? This is what I kept doing. And eventually, through this, I got my tech job. And let me just read to you. Um, I'm just going to find the message that I sent. Um, do I not know how to spell this woman's name? Okay, I can't find it because I can't remember. But pretty much, I kept doing informational interviews, and it was just kind of like, hey, I see you have this job. I'm thinking about this career. Do you mind taking some time to speak with me? Right? It wasn't anything like I wasn't necessarily asking for anything when I first started. As I got better and better, and I understood more of the climate and what people were looking for, I think that's when I started pivoting a little bit more and like saying like, hey, I saw this specific job. Can you tell me any more about it? Right. And one of those conversations, which was an informational interview, ended up being um, the job that I accepted. So, okay, I just found it. So I said, hi, um, my former boss's name. I'm reaching out to learn more about X company, specifically the partnerships and outreach manager role. I currently work in the New York City Department of Education in career and technical education, and I'm drawn to the work you're doing. Are you available for a 30-minute chat? Now, the work that they were doing was they were also doing something similar to career and technical education, but in the tech space. They were doing apprenticeships. So I sent this at 4:39 p.m. and she replied at 5:32 p.m. and she said, "Hi A4, thanks for reaching out. Will be great to have a 30-minute chat and learn more about your experience and interest. Please drop me an email and we can find some time." So I dropped her an email and I started working at the company in December, like right before Christmas. Right. So that's how I pivoted to tech. And so, what happened in that in between period? So, as you just heard me say, the role that I was applying for was partnerships and an outreach manager, right? Now, I didn't really know what that meant in this space, but what I did know was that, again, LinkedIn, I knew that I could find people who had this title. And luckily, one of my friends had this title. Now, the funny thing is that Mario worked at LinkedIn, and let me just I'm just spending so much time on LinkedIn right now. And his title, let me just confirm his title. His title back then was partner manager, right? Or maybe it was senior customer relationships manager. I don't think he was promoted yet. But I was like, well, this seems close enough to to this job that I want. So I called him and he sat on the phone with me and we prepped together. He helped me with every single step of the interview from like the first call with my man with the person who was going to be my manager. And at that point, I thought it was going to be an informational interview. But after that call, she said, you know where you're in, send your resume to the HR and then we'll move you to the next round. And I was like, okay, right? But every single step of the way, Mario helped me. Now, funny story is once I actually got into the role, and I actually once started doing the role, and two, I started getting more understanding of tech. I realized that even though my role is partnerships and outreach, and Mario's role was engagement and partner, we were doing very different things, right? I was working for an education tech company that supported people in getting jobs in tech through apprenticeships. So the way it worked was that our sales team would go, let's say, talk to Meta and say, hey, Meta, I see you have over 100 entry level roles open and you haven't filled them yet. We are able to fill that for you through this apprenticeship model. And in this model, you will be able to pay whoever's incoming maybe about 80% of their actual salary, and then another 20% you would pay us, and we will educate them. Right. So by the time the year is done, not only does the apprentice now have Meta on their resume, they now have experience, and now they also have the education to back that up. And then usually what we saw was that people would be promoted and stay at that company. Right. So that was the salespeople's job to make sure that they were convincing the companies to hire them. My job was to make sure we actually had people that they could hire. So, how did we do that? Through partnerships. But my partnerships looked like going to nonprofits, schools, boot camps, wherever we could find the talent to fill the various jobs in data analytics, in software engineering, HR, sales, etc. So, I did that through reaching out to these schools and then eventually also going on TikTok. Whereas, like, usually in tech, when you talk about partnerships, what you're talking about is people who support the business, right? So maybe the business, for example, right now, the role I'm in, when we say a partner, what we mean is that maybe I'm a change management strategist. If I have too many clients on my docket and I cannot actually fulfill everything in time, we'll bring in a partner who will support us in that work, right? So when you're a partner manager, usually in tech, it means that you're managing the external contractors to help get work done. So as you can see, my title as partnership and outreach manager and Mario's title as partner manager, two different things. But I think what I've learned, and even the reason why I even do this channel, is because even though titles can mean very different things, usually fundamentally the skill sets are kind of the same. You're engaging people, you're figuring out what they need. And this goes back to my whole idea of why I was able to transition from social worker to tech social work, because ultimately in my partnerships role, whether I was doing my role or Mario's role, the key thing is to understand people, understand what they need to be successful, right? And that's what we were doing. So that's why when you work with me and when I do a lot of these videos, I'm always saying stop focusing so much on the title, focus on the skills, because titles can either look similar or wildly different, but maybe the skill sets are different or wildly different, are either similar or wildly different, right? So you have to, at the end of the day, you have to focus on the job that you're doing and make sure that you're able to do the job, and you have the skill sets to do the job, and you can prove that you have impact in the skill sets rather than focusing on I want to be this title, I need to do this title. So I hope that helps. I just thought it was funny. As I was just thinking about some my own transition, and I think a lot of people when they transition, they get so caught up because they're like, oh, like my family, my coworkers don't understand. Like the first time my coworkers heard that I was moving to a new job was I was like laugh crying on the phone to my to my manager because I was like, I don't know how to tell you this, but I accepted a new job. And I won't get into the details, but I appreciate my old team. They, like I said, we are still very close. And yeah, I did not leave that job for any negative reasons. I just wanted to like grow more, and I just wanted to explore new stuff. So shout out to that team so much. But yeah, that's the first time they heard about it. And then my family, again, similar. I was like, okay, hey, I quit the DOE last week and I'm starting this new job. Uh, yeah. So how I did it. So I think just to recap, when I was transitioning, I looked at to people who were where I wanted to be, and I asked them for help, right? And those were the people I focused my attention on. And then I did a lot of just conversations and research. First, it was just informational to see how people did it. And then it was more targeted based on like either the job title or the skill sets. And then it was targeted based on you have this job open. I want to find out a little bit more about your company. And by doing those informational interviews, that's how I landed a job. It wasn't through necessarily applying for anything, it was just asking conversations. I do think in today's job market, you need to apply and do the conversations just so you're in the system. But that's just kind of how I did it. Um, um, so yeah, I just want to look over my notes just to make sure that I'm all set. So yeah. My last point here is what I want to say is that part of the reason why I've been doing a lot of these videos now is because, like I mentioned, my title was partnerships and outreach, but I was the third person hired at that company. So over the course of the time, once I brought people in, I had to prepare them for interviews and I had to make sure that they were doing what they had to do to get hired by these big companies, right? So my role started out as like partnerships and outreach, but then it became talent acquisition, it became community building, it became pipeline management, right? So through that, I started working more with candidates and then with clients and their HR teams. And that's kind of how I got into the whole world of talent acquisition, right? So yeah, so if you're feeling stuck like I was, here's your plan. Okay. Become a LinkedIn detective. Find people who have the career that you want and study their journey. See how they talk about their skills. And this could be the people you know personally or strangers. Like I will say, if you know someone personally, they're more obviously likely to respond to you. If you don't know someone, expect to reach out to a handful of people before you get that first bite. Two, ignore the titles and read the descriptions, right? Look for the actions in the job posting. Um, do they need someone to build relationships, manage crises, analyze feedback? Um, those are the things that you do every single day as a social worker, as an educator, like so find the skill sets that bring you alive in the job you do now. Don't try to reinvent the wheel here, right? So ignore the titles, read the description. Then find your translator, right? Talk to people in the roles you're interested in. Don't just ask for a job, ask for their like their day in their life. What does your day-to-day actually look like, right? Ask what their title really means at the company, right? So like yes, this is what your title means, but like what does it actually mean, right? um your experience in the helping profession isn't a bug, it's a feature, right? So I like people are like, "Oh my God, but I work in this, I can't do this." Yes, you can. It's your magic. So lean into it. The tech industry needs your empathy and your understanding of complex human systems more than ever, especially with AI, right? So you have to learn how to tell them how you can bring value to them, and you really can. So I just want you to know you've got this. If you found this helpful, hit the like button, subscribe for more of this conversation. If you need more one-on-one help, definitely reach out to me and have a one-on-one session. If you get it, but you want like more details, also I have my playbook available to you. So ask your questions. I'm happy to do more videos, but also there are resources available to you. All right. Thanks for watching, and I will see you tomorrow.